In a deserted church, a girl named Hannah is tied to a bed. She's not alone. Two priests and her father are with her. The senior priest is trying to drive out a demon from Hannah. He checks if she's breathing, and she wakes up, her body under the demon's control. The other priest uses holy water on her while the exorcism continues. Hannah's body shakes violently, and her father pleads with her to resist. The demon briefly mimics Hannah, even changing its eyes to match hers, but it's a cruel trick. It then takes over the older priest and throws him across the room, causing his death. Next, it begins to choke the younger priest. Her father has no choice but to kill his own daughter and uses a pillow to suffocate her. That makes her let go of the priest. They think she's dead, but they were wrong. 3 months pass, and Megan enters a hospital for a job interview. Lisa quickly joins her. They are seen having coffee, with Lisa assuring Megan of her support. Megan then walks with Dr. Lewis towards the facility as he explains her new role. He inquires about her past problems as a police officer, but she assures him that she's improved and can manage the work. As they ride an elevator, the doctor mentions that the job can become unsettling over time, causing one's imagination to run wild. Megan doesn't believe this will happen to her. As they venture further into the basement, he informs her that night shift workers can only enter and exit the facility using their security card. He continues to guide her around the facility, leading her to the intake bay. He emphasizes that she must remain on site while on duty. After the intake bay, her task is to move the bodies to the receiving room, where she needs to photograph them and scan their fingerprints. Megan starts her night shift at a dim hospital, meeting Dave, the security guard. After a power outage and a body delivery, she and a paramedic process the body. Startled by Dave in the freezer, she continues her duties as he apologizes. Megan continues her work. When she sees a man in the corridor, it freaks her out and wants to take some pills but resists. At an AA meeting with Lisa, she shares her past encounter with the man who shot her colleague, triggering cravings. Awoken by ex-colleague Andrew to collect his stuff, she shares her new job and Lisa's suggestion for night shifts, despite his concern for her solitude. The following evening, Megan is at work when the intake bay alarm sounds. She goes to investigate. Suddenly, a homeless man appears, pleading for entry. She refuses and alerts security about the man, just as a body arrives at the intake bay. The ambulance driver, Randy, requests her assistance with the body, as he can't move it by himself. Despite knowing it's against the rules, she steps out to help. As they're shifting the body, the homeless man slips into the facility and uses the elevator, unnoticed by Megan. Randy, more talkative than the previous driver, begins to share details about the body during the transfer. The body, identified as Hannah, was discovered in an alley, and the culprit managed to escape without leaving any trace. After escorting Randy out, Megan returns inside to process the body, as the hallway lights at the other end illuminate. Megan's initial attempt to take a picture is unsuccessful. She tries again, but to no avail. She adjusts the camera and tries once more, but injures herself in the process. She then decides to proceed with fingerprinting. As she's scanning the fingerprints, the computer also malfunctions. Unsure of her next steps, Megan decides to put Hannah's body in the freezer. As she's doing so, a table begins to shake, causing several vials to fall and break. She bends down to pick up the broken pieces and cuts her hand. As she pushes the body further into the freezer, a drop of her blood lands on it. While still in the freezer room, she bandages her wound. Suddenly, the freezer door swings open. She checks it and then shuts it. Megan next heads to her computer and uses Andrew's password to access Hannah's case details. She prints the file and revisits the body. The eye color listed in the file doesn't match the body's. Suddenly, a fly lands on the body, quickly followed by a swarm, startling Megan. She looks again, but the flies have vanished. Megan returns Hannah to the freezer and goes back to her computer. Out of nowhere, she hears a sound and goes to check, only to find the body missing. She steps outside and spots someone dragging the body away, prompting her to follow. Unexpectedly, the homeless man assaults her, but she manages to fend him off. When she reaches for his knife, he disappears. She leaves the body in the hallway, contacts security, and instructs them to call the police. Megan rushes back to the hallway, but the body is gone. She enters the incineration room and finds the man preparing to burn the body, so she attempts to reason with him. Suddenly, security runs in and tackles him, but as they're taking him away, this is actually Hannah's father, and he is trying to tell Megan that she needs to burn the body because Hannah isn't actually dead. Later, the man is taken into custody. Megan is in the process of storing the body when she hears an odd noise. She shuts the freezer and walks away, but the doors swing open again. Megan is apprehensive about returning, but she retrieves the body and unzips the bag. Suddenly, her phone rings. It's Andrew, calling to check on her. As she turns around, the body shifts. Megan examines it closely, and it lets out a breath. In a state of panic, she quickly wraps it up and exits the room. Lisa appears at the door. She offers to find a replacement for Megan's shift, but Megan insists on staying. She tells Lisa about the body's exhale, but Lisa reassures her that it's normal for bodies to release air. Later, they are in her office, discussing the assault and the incident when her partner was shot. Dave enters and informs her that a police officer wishes to speak with her. Lisa and Megan leave the room, leaving Dave in the facility. The freezer door opens once more. The waiting officer is Andrew. He inquires about her well-being, then questions her about a missing bottle of pills from his belongings. This angers her, but before he departs, she requests his assistance with something. Megan returns with Hannah's fingerprints. She hands them to Andrew, mentions their peculiar nature, and asks him to investigate. While waiting, Dave amuses himself in the facility. However, he hears an odd noise and ventures into the freezer room. He notices movement inside the freezer, so he opens the door for a closer look. Suddenly, a hand reaches out and shoves him away. It takes control of his body, just like it did with the priest, and pulls him into the freezer. Megan returns to the facility and heads to the restroom. She sends a text to Andrew, apologizing, when she hears someone enter the restroom. Assuming it's Dave, she bends down as her rubber band ball rolls towards her. A scorched hand reaches out and snatches it from the floor. Megan is filled with fear, but she steps out of the stall. The restroom is empty. Later, Andrew returns her call and informs her that Hannah has been deceased for 3 months. Megan conducts an online search for Hannah and discovers an article stating that she was demon-possessed. She revisits the body and observes that a large wound that was previously present is now missing. The other security guard is also searching for Dave when she approaches the reception desk. She requests the security footage. Back in her office, she reviews the footage and spots a glitch that resembles a body in the corridor. This scares her, and she contemplates taking some pills again, but refrains and decides to seek Lisa's perspective on the footage. Both of them are in the facility, examining the footage, but Lisa doesn't perceive what Megan does. However, she does notice the pills on a countertop while Megan is recounting what the man said about the body in the incineration room. Lisa confronts her about the medication and is skeptical when Megan insists she hasn't taken any. Lisa, her sponsor, believes that Megan's visions are stress-induced. Lisa exits the facility and heads to a stairwell to smoke a cigarette. She hears a sound from above and, assuming it's Dave, rushes towards it. As she rounds a corner and spots Dave in the shadows, the body suddenly emerges from the darkness and begins to pursue her. Lisa flees to the rooftop, but it follows her there and gradually takes her life. Back in the facility, another body is brought in. It's Randy delivering again, but this time, Megan doesn't go out to assist him. She informs him about the recent events and brings him inside to inquire about the body's wound. He confirms seeing it, along with a burn on her arm, when the body was delivered. Megan shares her observation that the body appears to be self-healing. Once again, Megan finds herself alone. She calls Andrew to confess that she kept his pills due to her anxiety. She wanted to be transparent with him. As she's ending the call, the body can be seen creeping behind her, unnoticed by Megan. It's in the elevator, seemingly repairing itself. Randy is leaving the hospital's parking area in his vehicle when he unexpectedly collides with something. He steps out to inspect what he hit, but his phone rings. As he picks up the call, he hears an unusual sound behind him. He looks into the rear of the ambulance to find out what it was. The body is creeping up behind him. He whirls around and sees it. He attempts to flee, but it traps him between 2 ambulances and advances towards him. It crawls up to him and takes his life. At the same time, Megan is reviewing the footage from a short while ago. She first notices the same glitch in the elevator, followed by the sight of the body crawling inside. Fearing for Randy's safety, she rushes out into the parking lot, despite it being against the rules, and discovers him lifeless. Andrew calls her, informing her that the man from the incineration room has escaped. Suddenly, he appears behind her, seizing her and taking her captive. He instructs her to retrieve the body from the freezer. Upon opening the bag, he observes that the body has transformed again. He reveals that she heals herself by taking the lives of others. The man questions why she hasn't killed Megan too. Megan expresses her belief in his words, prompting him to share Hannah's story. He explains that Hannah was possessed by a demon that refused to leave, identifiable by its blue eye. He confesses to ending Hannah's life during the last exorcism to protect others. They proceed to the incineration room, where he informs Megan that burning the body is the sole method to annihilate the demon. As she gazes at the flames, the demon overpowers Hannah's father and targets her next. However, the man intervenes, rescuing Megan, but getting severely burned in the process. She flees, with the body crawling in pursuit. In the meantime, Andrew reaches the hospital and discovers Megan's phone and Randy's lifeless body. Megan persistently tries to escape from the advancing body, but it relentlessly pursues her. As it crawls towards her, Andrew enters the premises. He searches for Megan inside, but the body drags her into the freezer, where she encounters the remaining bodies. Andrew bumps into another security guard who informs him that the hospital's systems are down. They hear a noise emanating from the freezer room and head towards it, finding Megan on the floor. The guard spots the body, panics, and flees, but the body eventually catches and kills him. The body heals its final wound and targets Andrew, when Megan suddenly musters the courage to open fire at it. She continues firing until the demon is temporarily incapacitated, allowing her to escort her ex-boyfriend out of the facility. She instructs him to seek help and returns to retrieve the body and transport it to the incineration room. The body revives and resists as it burns, but Megan ultimately succeeds in incinerating it. As the movie ends, the police discover her seated on the floor, amusing herself with a rubber band ball. In the concluding scene, Megan is seen observing her reflection in the mirror, with her hair obscuring one eye. Suddenly, a fly appears and she squashes it against the mirror. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our video. Watch the next recaps on the screen, and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.